Blush and Bashful, a bleeding armadillo cake, and a cemetery breakdown so raw that when the cameras stopped rolling, nobody on set could move. Steel Magnolias wasn't just a film about Southern women in a beauty parlor. It was a true story, and the real version is more heartbreaking than anything that ended up on screen. Today, 15 facts about Steel Magnolias, from a director so brutal the cast staged an intervention, to the nurse who turned off Susan Harling's life support and then did it again on camera. Stick around for the bonus. It involves a mother, a film set in Louisiana, and the one moment of peace she never got in real life until someone yelled action. Steel Magnolias opened in November 1989 and became an immediate cultural phenomenon. Julia Roberts, Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Olympia Dukakis, Daryl Hannah, a cast that should not have worked this well together and somehow became one of the most beloved ensembles in American cinema. But behind the big hair and the beauty shop gossip was a grief story, a real one. Robert Harling wrote the film about his sister Susan, who died at 33 from type 1 diabetes complications after insisting on becoming a mother despite the risks. Everything you're about to hear actually happened. Fact 1. The director was so brutal the cast staged an intervention. Behind the southern sweetness was a director allergic to kindness. Herbert Ross turned the set into an emotional boot camp, and his primary target was Julia Roberts, the youngest cast member, who was 21 years old. He criticized nearly every choice she made and reduced her to tears regularly. He asked Dolly Parton if she could even act. Dolly's response became instant legend. "No, but it's your job to make me look like I can." There was context. Ross's wife, prima ballerina Nora Kay, had died about a year and a half before filming began. They'd been married nearly 30 years, and that grief was still following him onto set every day. Shirley MacLaine finally confronted him directly, telling Ross he had been behaving badly since Nora's death, and that it wasn't respectful to his late wife or the cast. The veteran actresses made it clear, enough. The cast bonded over surviving him, and that's probably why the female friendship on screen felt so real. Fact 2. Every actress in Hollywood passed on Shelby before Julia Roberts. Before Roberts became Shelby, the role went through more actresses than a Hollywood game of hot potato. Daryl Hannah was offered the lead first. She said no, and asked to play Annelle instead, the quirky beautician with questionable life choices over the dying young mother. Respect to her. They pivoted to Meg Ryan, who signed on and then left for When Harry Met Sally. Then came Winona Ryder, around 16 at the time, which made playing a diabetic mother dying from pregnancy complications a difficult sell, even by Hollywood's flexible standards. Laura Dern was also considered. Finally, the casting director brought in Julia Roberts, who was still finishing Mystic Pizza and had zero name recognition. She walked in, flashed that smile, and nailed it. When Plan A chooses the comedic relief role instead, Plan E gets an Oscar nomination. Fact 3. Roberts studied for the role at the Harlings' house over hamburgers. Once Roberts got the role, she didn't just read the script and show up. She went straight to the source. She spent time with Robert Harling's parents before filming began, listening to stories about Susan, the real woman behind Shelby. His father grilled hamburgers in the backyard while Roberts listened. Harling later said that when Roberts walked in that first time, somebody just turned the lights on in the room. Not because she looked like Susan, but because she carried something similar. A warmth, a presence that made people want to be around her. Roberts wasn't preparing for a role. She was collecting memories of someone she never met. When the cameras rolled, she was honoring someone else's sister, built from backyard conversations and secondhand love. Fact 4. Harling wrote the entire play in 10 days after his sister died. Robert Harling didn't sit down to write a hit play. He sat down to keep from losing his mind. In 1985, his sister Susan died at 33. She had been told pregnancy could kill her. She wanted a baby anyway. In 1983, she gave birth to a son named Robert, after Harling himself. 2 years later, she was gone. Harling started spiraling. What if the kid forgot his mother entirely? A writer friend told him to write it down. He tried a short story that lasted about 5 minutes before he realized Southern women do not fit in paragraphs. They need dialogue, interruptions, and the kind of verbal warfare that requires a stage. So he locked himself in a room and wrote the entire play in 10 days. What he later called a 24/7 tsunami of Southernness just poured out. He wrote it for his nephew. The rest of us just borrowed it for our own breakdowns. Fact 5. Julia Roberts got engaged to her fake husband. Briefly, Roberts and Dylan McDermott played newlyweds on screen. By the time filming wrapped, they were engaged in real life. Roberts had recently ended a relationship with Liam Neeson. Then McDermott showed up playing her devoted husband in a small Louisiana town with nothing to do after filming but spend time together. Spend 3 months pretending to be madly in love. And apparently the brain decides the fake marriage should become real. The engagement lasted until 1990, right up until Roberts met Kiefer Sutherland on the set of Flatliners, and the whole cycle started over. 1 year. That's how long it took for reality to catch up with the on-set fantasy. Fact 6. Bette Davis invited Harling to tea and started casting his entire movie Bette Davis saw Steel Magnolias on stage in New York and decided Weezer was hers. She picked up the phone, called Harling directly, and invited him to tea like they were old friends discussing garden parties. Harling thought someone was messing with him. He walked into a New York hotel and there sat Davis with a teacup, already talking like the role was locked. Then she started casting the rest of the film for him. Katharine Hepburn for Clary, Elizabeth Taylor for Truvy, casually assembling an entire lineup of legends, while Harling sat wondering if he had any say in his own story. As he left, Davis delivered her exit line: "You may give the role of Weezer to someone else, but you and they will hear from Bette Davis." Producers passed. Davis died in 1989, the same year the film came out. Shirley MacLaine got the part and delivered exactly the kind of unhinged energy Davis would have brought. At least someone understood the assignment. Fact 7. Sally Field's breakdown was so brutal nobody could call cut. The funeral scene took multiple days to film with different angles and coverage, but Sally Field's performance, the cemetery breakdown everyone remembers, was one take. Field prepared by spending hours screaming into a pillow to wreck her voice. She wanted it raw, ragged, and completely shredded before the camera rolled. When director Ross finally let her go, there was no stopping, no redirecting, just Field tearing through every stage of grief in one uninterrupted performance. When she finished, nobody moved. The crew just stood there. Nobody knew what to say. Sometimes you can't direct grief, you just get out of its way. Fact 8. Dolly Parton had to learn professional hairdressing for the role. Ross demanded authentic salon scenes, which created an immediate problem. His actresses had no idea how to actually do hair. The solution was intensive training from professional stylists, not beauty school but close enough. Dolly Parton, a woman who has maintained the exact same hairstyle since the Nixon administration, spent weeks learning salon techniques she would never use again after filming Wrapped. The opening wedding scene required her to work on Julia Roberts' hair while delivering lines and hitting comedic beats simultaneously. One wrong snip and America's newest sweetheart gets a bald spot on camera. Ross refused to let them fake it with camera tricks. If they were going to play salon professionals, they needed to actually know what they were doing with scissors and a can of Aquanet. Nobody watching the film questions whether Truvy knows her way around a beauty parlor. The training worked. A director so brutal the cast had to confront him collectively. A play written in 10 days by a man trying not to lose his mind. And Bette Davis showing up uninvited to cast her own movie over tea. We're not halfway through. Still coming. The writer who officiated both his fictional sister's wedding and her funeral on camera. The real medical staff who reenacted Susan's death, including the nurse who turned off her life support. And the bonus: a mother, a film set, and the only moment of peace she ever got. Fact 9. Sally Field's casual complaint became Robert Harling's next film. Filming in small-town Louisiana meant zero nightlife. The cast spent evenings together constantly. Games, conversation, late-night bonding over surviving the same difficult director. During one gathering, Harling asked each actress what kind of role she'd like to play next. Sally Field had an answer ready. She wanted to play a bitch who gets to wear nice clothes. After years of playing noble, earnest women in difficult circumstances, she wanted glamour and the freedom to be genuinely terrible. Harling filed that away. 2 years later, he wrote Soap Dish, an entire film built around Sally Field playing exactly that, a glamorous nightmare in designer clothes. Never underestimate what happens when you give a talented actress permission to complain about typecasting. Sometimes you get a whole new screenplay out of it. Fact 10. The Minister was Robert Harling. Ross asked Harling to play the minister who officiates both Shelby's wedding and her funeral. So Harling, not an actor, already emotionally wrecked from turning his family tragedy into a major film, spent 2 days on set guiding his fictional sister through the most important rituals of her life. The wedding scene at the beginning, Harling pronouncing Shelby and Jackson husband and wife. The funeral at the end, Harling committing her soul to God. He bookended Shelby's entire married life, from joy to devastation, while standing inside his real sister's story. Harling later described the experience as surreal, which feels like the understatement of the decade. Imagine writing about the worst thing that ever happened to you, watching someone else perform it, and then stepping into the frame yourself to officiate the goodbye. Fact 11. Harling insisted on filming in Natchitoches, and the town never recovered from it. Harling refused to film Steel Magnolias anywhere except Natchitoches, Louisiana. His childhood, his sister's life, the entire foundation of the story. 35 years later, the town is still living in that world. Fans make pilgrimages from around the globe to walk the actual filming locations. The American cemetery where Field had her breakdown, the house where Weezer terrorized the neighborhood, St. Augustine Catholic Church where Shelby got married. For the 30th anniversary in 2019, the town threw Blush and Bashful weekend, character look-alike contests, armadillo cake receptions, and Easter egg hunts at the exact spot where the film's final scene was shot. Most meaningfully, Natchitoches dedicated an entire park to Susan Harling Robinson, not the character, the real woman. The Susan Harling Robinson Memorial Park has a fountain, benches, and a plaque with her photo and biography, written by her brother. One film gave a small Louisiana town a permanent place in pop culture. The town turned around and gave Susan a permanent place to be remembered. Fact 12. You can actually sleep in Shelby's house. The Eatonton family home from the film isn't just a landmark you drive past. It's a fully operational bed and breakfast. The Steel Magnolias house at 320 Jefferson Street in Natchitoches is the actual house, built around 1841, where Sally Field, Tom Skerritt, and Julia Roberts brought the Eatonton family to life. After the film became a phenomenon, someone realized they were sitting on a goldmine of nostalgia. 6 suites, each named after a character. The Shelby room is decorated in blush and bashful pink. Guests eat a traditional Southern breakfast in the dining room where the cast filmed their meals, then watch the film in the actual family room where those scenes happened. For fans who've watched this film 100 times, sleeping in Shelby's actual house is the ultimate pilgrimage. Fact 13. The Lifetime remake pulled 6.5 million viewers 23 years after the original. Lifetime produced a remake with an all-black cast: Queen Latifah, Jill Scott, Alfre Woodard, Felicia Rashad, Adepero Oduye, Condola Rashad. A heavyweight lineup for a Sunday night cable movie. The decision was deliberate. Producers wanted to give talented black actresses the kind of meaty, complex leading roles that were still hard to come by. As producer Neil Moran said, "The story's core themes transcend race. If it was all Latina, if it was all Asian, it would still be Steel Magnolias." The remake premiered October 7th, 2012 and pulled 6.5 million viewers, Lifetime's third most watched original film ever and their biggest hit since 2006. A story about women supporting each other through grief doesn't belong to any one cast or era. It just needs the right people to tell it. Fact 14. They hired the nurse who actually turned off Susan's life support. Ross wanted the hospital scenes to feel authentic, so he tracked down the real medical staff who had cared for Susan Harling Robinson during her final days and cast them in the film, including the nurse who had turned off Susan's life support, the same nurse, playing herself, doing it again. Harling's mother stood behind the monitors during filming, watching a reenactment of her daughter's death. The beeps were real. The movements were real. These were people reliving one of the worst days of their lives after someone yelled action. The line between performance and memory didn't just blur, it vanished entirely. Fact 15. The 2012 remake proved the story belongs to everyone. What Lifetime's remake demonstrated wasn't just that the film could be retold with a different cast. It was that the specific intimate grief at the center of Steel Magnolias, a mother losing a daughter, women holding each other together when nothing else holds, has no fixed address. The dialogue was largely unchanged from Harling's original. The structure was identical, only the faces and the setting shifted. And it worked because the story had never really been about Louisiana or the 1980s or any particular version of Southern womanhood. It had always been about the thing that connects people across every version of every story ever told. What we do when someone we love is gone, and the only thing left is each other. Harling wrote it for his nephew. Natchitoches built a park for Susan. Millions of strangers ugly cried through both versions. That's what a true story does when it's told well enough. It stops belonging to the person who wrote it and starts belonging to everyone who needed it. Bonus fact. And now the bonus I've been saving for last. This one is quiet, and it's the whole film in a single moment. When they filmed the scene where Julia Roberts' life support is disconnected, Robert Harling begged his mother not to come to set. He was worried it would be too painful. Watching an actress recreate your daughter's final moments while a camera crew adjusted the lighting, Margaret Harling showed up anyway. She sat through the entire filming without saying a word. When it wrapped, Robert asked her why she had put herself through that. Her answer: "I wanted to see Julia get up and walk away." That was it. Not the performance, not the emotional accuracy, not even the tribute to Susan's memory. She needed to watch the woman playing her dead daughter stand up, perfectly alive, and walk off set like nothing had happened. In real life, she never got to see her own daughter do that. Susan didn't get up. Susan didn't walk away. The machine stopped, and she was gone, and that was the end. But on a film set in Louisiana, Margaret Harling could watch it happen differently. She could watch Shelby die, and then watch her come back. It only lasted until someone called cut, but for those few seconds, her daughter got up and walked away.